You come at the king, you best not miss.
Live from the energy capital of the nation, Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
Good morning, News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. And welcome to the program. It's Tuesday morning already. Week's just flying by. We got a busy show lined up for you today. Around 8:30, we're going to have a call from Maureen Moore. She's with the Peabody Energy Leaders in Education program. We're going to talk with Maureen after the 8:30 break. And, of course, in the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to do the Tuesday morning quarterbacks segment, which is always fun. And I know we have a lot of interviews lined up for that. And I think Coach Winkler from the Gillette Wild is going to be in as well. So it's going to be a busy, busy day. I actually want to spend a good amount of time talking about this Washington Redskins story. And the Redskins thing, it's not going away, and it's only getting bigger. I think it's going to be a pretty big story over the next several weeks. It's not going to go away. But first, I want to share with you. I'll just read the press release from the police department, and let you take what you will from it. On Sunday night at 12:31 a.m., an officer with the Gillette Police Department stopped a 2004 sport utility vehicle near the intersection of Brooks Avenue and East Lincoln Street for a traffic violation. The sport utility vehicle was occupied by one adult male during an investigation to determine if the subject was driving under the influence. The suspect refused to get out of the vehicle. The suspect grabbed the officer and drove away, dragging the officer a short distance. During the incident, the officer drew his service weapon and fired shots in an attempt to stop the suspect. The suspect fled north on Brooks Avenue, continued to the Outer Limits subdivision, just outside city limits. Other law enforcement agencies joined in the pursuit. The pursuit came to an end when the suspect crashed through a barbed wire fence. And that suspect was then taken into custody, transported to the hospital. Suspect received no injuries as a result of the gunfire and was released. The officer was treated and released for injuries sustained while being dragged by the suspect. Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation is investigating the incident at request of the Gillette Police Department. The suspect is currently being held in Campbell County Detention Center on a felony drug charge. They did find drugs on him, and additional charges are suspected. Chief of Police Jim Lotzel said that U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is also part of the investigation. Now, that's the official press release from the police department. And I have the news record story as well. And Lieutenant Wasson from the police department says that it's believed that the guy is not a citizen of the United States. So I guess if you get pulled over and the police ask you to get out of the car, get out of the car. I mean, this is not the kind of stuff we want going on in our community. I mean, people trying to run police officers over. I mean, really? It's, I mean, that's pretty much unacceptable, I think. So, hopefully they can find, because there's a question about the identity of this guy, too. So hopefully between the police department and Wyoming Department of Criminal Investigation and ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, hopefully between them they can find out who this guy is and charge him appropriately. And we'll keep an eye on this story, and when more comes out, I'll be sure to share it with you as well. So before we get into the Washington Redskins stuff, I'm going to actually take the first break a little early because we have a pretty long livestock report today. So I want to get all that in, and then I want to get started with the Redskins stuff, and then Chad will be in as well, and we'll talk with him at the bottom of the hour. It kind of ties in, sports related. So we'll see what he thinks as well. So stay tuned. News Talk 1270 KIML.
Better than your first kiss, without all the awkward slobber. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back to the program. And I don't actually mention this a whole lot, but if you go to my website, doncarpenterradio.com, there's actually a way you can send an email, and I can, I get it right here at the station. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because I got an email from Bill, and he says he was pulled over this morning, and the last thing he thought about was running over the police officer. And I got to agree. Thanks for the email, Bill. I mean, I've been pulled over a few times in my life. I have a pretty good driving record, but everybody gets pulled over every once in a while. My guess is that, and I hate to speculate on this, but if immigrations and customs enforcement is involved, my guess is, the guy might not be illegal. I mean, they said they think he's not a citizen, but they didn't say if he was legal or illegal. Maybe the guy didn't have his papers in order and he panicked. And, he had drugs too, which, is a pretty good sign that he was up to no good of some sort. So it's terrible that the police officer was injured. Luckily, he wasn't injured badly. And, at least they got the guy. So the reason I wanted to talk about the Redskins today, and since we have a little bit of time to do it today, and maybe we'll get to some of the shutdown stuff a little bit later. I mean, they're getting pretty close to a deal. And of course, you probably heard this on some of the other shows yesterday. Bob Costas running his mouth again about the Redskins. And I thought I would share with you first how the Redskins actually came about the name. So in 1932, the team started with the name the Boston Braves. Again, another Indian-related name. And the following year, the franchise name was changed to the Boston Redskins. On that inaugural Redskins team, 4 players and the head coach were Native Americans. The name was never a label. It was and continues to be a badge of honor. And this is from a letter that Redskins owner Dan Snyder sent out to the fans. In 1971, legendary Redskins coach, the late George Allen, consulted with the Red Cloud Athletic Fund located on Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota and designated our emblem on the Redskins helmet. And, I'm sure you've seen the Redskins logo. It's the Indian head with the 2 feathers going off the back. And several years later, Coach Allen was honored by the Red Cloud Athletic Fund. On the wall of the Ashburn, Virginia offices of the Redskins is a plaque given to Coach Allen, a source of pride for the entire team. The Washington Redskins is more than a name. We have called our football team for over 8 decades. It's a symbol of everything we stand for: strength, courage, pride, and respect. The same values we know guide Native Americans, and which are embedded throughout their rich history as the original Americans. I've listened carefully to the commentary and perspectives on all sides, and I respect the feelings of those who are offended by the team name. But I hope such individuals also try to respect what the name means, not only for all of us in the extended Washington Redskins family, but among Native Americans too. And again, this is just, these are the words of the owner, Dan Snyder. He's explaining how they came about this name. And, it was never intended to be a slur. It was never intended to be witty or funny or making fun of, like the Cleveland Indians, for example, where they had the stupid mascot Chief Nakahoma, and he does all kinds of hacky stuff, or the Atlanta Braves, where they do the tomahawk chop. There's none of that with the Redskins. And the letter also continues, consider the following facts concerning the Washington Redskins name. First, the highly respected Annenberg Public Policy Center polled nearly 1,000 self-identified Native Americans from across the continental United States and found that 90% of Native Americans did not find the team name Washington Redskins to be offensive. And the second one, in April 2013 Associated Press survey, 79% of the respondents stated the Washington Redskins should not change their name, while only 11% believe that the name should change. And I'll share a little bit more of this with you after the break. But since Chad came in, I know we've talked about this before, but it's become kind of a hot button issue. And,
I saw that Bob Costas talked about it on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get to that, too. Costas is always opening his mouth. He's always trying to inject himself into these issues. I mean, he did with the gun control thing last year. I don't know. Have you seen the letter that Dan Snyder sent out to Redskins fans?
I have not.
Oh, Vic actually told me about it the other day. I mean, he's a Redskins fan. And he explains how they came about the name. I mean, it was done to honor... It was done to honor their coach and some players that were, Native Americans. Back when they started the team. I guess it was the Boston Redskins back in 1932.
Okay.
So they were the Boston Braves and they switched to the Redskins. So that's not it was never meant to be a slur. And I understand people might be offended, but I think once they know the real story. There's really nothing to it.
Yeah, but Redskins, it's an offensive name.
Well, see... If
you came up to a Native American, would you call him a Redskin? Hey, Redskin.
Well, apparently again, and this is just, you can only go by what the polls say, but, I mean, most people just don't care about it. See, I think the problem is... people see a double standard, and I've heard a couple people mention this. They see a double standard. If you did this with any other minority, and you did some kind of
color, skin,
yeah. Well, I mean,
yes, that's offensive.
See, I think that's why most people.
Why is it different in this case?
Well, apparently Native Americans don't find it offensive. But I mean, everybody else.
Do we know for a fact that Native Americans don't find it offensive?
Well, I mean, there's just a couple polls. I mean, this is coming from Dan Snyder, so you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
But I mean, it was an Associated Press survey and an Annenberg Public Policy Center survey. So I think. But I think your point that if. That it's offensive because any other color skin
or
as a name.
Period.
Yeah. See, now, do you think they should change the name?
Redskin, yes.
Okay. So
I think it's antiquated. I think we've moved past that as a society to call people Redskins.
Now, what about the Cleveland Indians, the Atlanta Braves?
That Indians is not if I went up to a Native American and said, "Oh, you're Indian," they'd say yes.
Okay.
An Indian can be complimentary. Redskin is not you would never call somebody a Redskin.
Now, how about this? The Florida Seminoles.
The Seminoles, they are proud to have Florida State represent them. They're representing what they consider a proud warrior tribe.
You know why the Seminoles are proud of it, right?
Why?
Because they sold the name to the Seminoles.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, they sold the name. So they actually did it the smart way. But I guess there's really no Redskins tribe to sell the name. But I mean, if you go by the polls, nobody really thinks this is a big deal except for a few people that are I guess maybe.
Yeah, I can see that. If you go, I haven't paid that close attention to the polls. To me, just when I hear the name. It sounds fairly offensive to me.
Well, see, and again, I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of people, if they don't really follow these things, they just see it and say that's an offensive thing.
But who does follow it, or who's going to look into the history of why they're called that?
See, I think that's the problem. They don't do a good enough job of talking about it. And I think it's one of those things. They're going to lose this. I mean, Dan Snyder's going to have to change the name. I mean, the press is on right now. They're going to have to change the name.
Obviously, it's a franchise with a tremendous, history and tradition, and it would seem a little weird if they changed the name. You're used to seeing those uniforms. You get memories of John Riggins running through tacklers, things like that. So it'd be kind of sad if they changed their name. But at the same time, I can't say I blame them. I can't say that I wouldn't find the name Redskin offensive.
Well, again, hold on a second. I had another version of this story, but I wanted the one with the letter. Let's see, I threw it away, but there's one of the older owners meeting with some Native Americans, and I don't know if they're chiefs or what, but they're in full garb with the headdress and everything.
Yeah.
So at least in the past, it wasn't considered offensive. I don't know. More and more people, I think, are gonna probably call for it just because they're seeing Bob Costas talk about it on TV. I think the days of the Redskins are numbered.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, St. John's, they were the Red Men. Now they're the Red Storm.
Syracuse, orange.
Now they're the Orange.
Yeah, they're
just
the orange. So what's their mascot? Is it a big orange now?
I don't know. I would just change that altogether if I were them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be something better than, unless they, maybe they just like orange. I mean, they could just have a big, silly orange as a mascot. Well, we have enough time for one call. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard this version, but I heard they're going to drop Washington because it's offensive.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that a few times already. That's pretty much every time I see the story. Somebody says something about they're dropping the Washington part because it's offensive, it's kind of witty. It's kind of witty.
Pretty funny.
So what else do we have going on in sports?
I mean, I am not personally offended by it. I'm just saying I could see how people would find it offensive and no need to have it.
Well, I definitely see why somebody would find it offensive. I mean, I have some Cherokee in me, but not enough to speak as a Native American. That's for sure.
Right.
It's like 1/16 or 1/32 or something like that. So
Yeah.
So what else do we have going on in sports?
We got a little cross-country news, some baseball from last night, football.
Sounds good. We'll see you again in about an hour. Maybe we'll do a little recap of the football, because I know we won't have time during the Tuesday morning quarterback segment. So
okay,
we'll do that next hour.
Sounds good.
News Talk 1270 KIML.
Broadcasting from two tall towers in the middle of a big field. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. And welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the Washington Redskins and this push to make them change their name. And it really regained a little bit of steam on Sunday night when Bob Costas kind of stuck his big nose in everything and decided to sound off on something that really isn't his business, to tell you the truth. I mean, he's a sportscaster, but really, it's not really Bob Costas's place to tell people what to think about this. And in the last break, I kind of shared with you some of the history behind where the name came from. And I'll say, I do understand why people would be offended by it. Chad was a good example of somebody that that just hears it and thinks it's offensive. And it's for those that don't understand the history of the team, it really, on the surface, does look offensive. I mean, let's be honest. And there is a double standard when it comes to that kind of stuff. I mean, the teams that have Native American related names kind of get a pass on some of these things, with the tomahawk chops and the silly big-headed Indian mascot that the Cleveland Indians have. And I don't think any of these things are intended to be offensive in any way. I mean, it would be stupid. It would be stupid for a sports team that makes money by selling things to people, tickets and jerseys and hats and T-shirts. It would be stupid for them to alienate a portion of the population that is a fan of the show or the team. So they're obviously not trying to be offensive. And, again, you have to acknowledge that some people would be offended, but the vast majority, at least by the polls that we see, the vast majority of Native Americans aren't even offended. Now, the funny thing is, more people that are not Native Americans are probably offended by this than Native Americans. And I actually saw a pretty interesting comment from someone that said how many people claiming that they're offended by the Redskins name celebrated Columbus Day yesterday. You know, Columbus, a guy who killed thousands of Native Americans. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
How about the Fighting Irish? You got a bunch of little drunk leprechauns running around.
Well, exactly. It's a perfect example, but I guess it's all right to pick on the Irish.
Pick on the white man.
Well, there you go. I mean,
I don't care if they're Irish, Hungarian, Russian, whatever. If they're white skinned, well, then we're the bad guys. Because if you say anything against our president, you're a racist. If you say you like the Redskins, you're some kind of a racist. You know, all these people with their little hurt feeling detectors out there, maybe they ought to change their batteries because it's giving them a false reading.
Well, and since you mentioned the president, I wasn't even going to mention that till later, but even he's speaking up. I mean, why would the president have to say something about a football team?
Because he's an idiot.
Good point.
You know, and it's with the Redskins, you know, I had family members that are of the Native American descent. Wouldn't they like to see the Redskins whooping ass on the Cowboys?
Well, there you go. I mean, it certainly has happened quite a few times over the years.
You know, and really, what are they going to change their name to? The indigenous tribe of American Indians. This doesn't flow. Redskins is there. They look fierce. They're fierce warriors, and that's what the whole thing was about.
Well, you know... Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, those original colonists, they weren't scared off by indigenous tribes. They were scared by those fierce redskin warriors. That's who they were scared of. And
a lot of it, and a lot of the redskin, you know, that comes from the red war paint that they wore. It's not because their skin is, you know, actually red. It's because they put war paint on.
Yeah, they more look like Japanese. Some of them. Yeah,
well, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of different racial makeups. I mean, that's another thing. There really isn't a one Native American. I mean, there's some that have more European features and some that have more Asian features in different parts of the country.
Depends on which side they walked around on, the Bering Strait or across the ice floe in Greenland.
Exactly.
I'll let you go, Don.
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot for the call. That's a good point. And I was going to mention the president a little bit later, but again, it just shows that people talking about stuff they don't know anything about, it just leads to them looking silly. And with that, we're up against the break. Let's take it. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about this. News Talk 1270 KIML.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Don't miss this month's Chamber Mixer this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. at Casey Peterson and Associates. Entry is one business card, but bring $5 to be entered for a chance to win the 50/50 raffle. All attendees will be entered to win a 2013 QuickBooks license and other prizes. Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. at Casey Peterson and Associates, 612 South Douglas Highway. So we don't have enough time to really get into the Costas audio in this hour, so we'll do that on the other side. And, we'll have a little bit more discussion. And again, I do think that this is going to lead to the Redskins changing their name. What they would change it to, I don't know. I mean, I've seen suggestions that they change it to something as completely offensive as possible, just to get back at Goodell. I mean, let's face it, Goodell is the one behind this, and he's always concerned about the league's image, and because of that, he's going to go after one of the most established owners in the game. It really is. I mean, he's supposed to represent the league, and the league is the teams. The league is the owners. You would think that some of the other owners would kind of stick up for him, but I guess not. And with that, we're out of time for this hour. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this. We'll talk about Bob Costas, the Redskins, and all of that. News Talk 1270 KIML.
From Washington to Cheyenne to right here in Gillette, Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Good Tuesday morning. Don Carpenter Show. And welcome back to the second hour of the program. And if you're just joining us, we've been talking about the Washington Redskins and whether they should change their name. Of course, this kind of, every once in a while, it rears its head, but it's really been a big issue the last several days because of Bob Costas weighing in on the issue on Sunday Night Football. And in the last hour, I kind of explained where the Redskins name comes from and how it's not meant to be offensive. And again, I understand that some people think it's offensive, and maybe some people are even offended by it. The polls show that most Native Americans aren't offended by it, but that's you got to at least acknowledge that some people that might not know the history at least see it as an offensive name. So how do you combat that? I mean, do you put out an ad campaign explaining where the name came from, or you just cave like Goodell wants Dan Snyder to do? I mean, let's face it, that's what he wants him to do. Goodell wants Dan Snyder to cave and change the name. What would they change it to, though? It would probably have to be something completely, well, let's see. Any kind of racial stereotype would be out. Any kind of violence-related things would be out. Like the Washington Bullets had to change their name. So no racial stereotypes, no violence. Animals, you probably can't do an animal anymore because of PETA. Although I will say PETA has a pretty good take on this. PETA actually released a press release yesterday saying that the Redskins shouldn't change their name, they should just change the logo. And instead of the Indian with the two feathers on the logo, it'd just be a red-skinned potato with two sprigs of broccoli or celery or something. PETA doesn't always seem like they have a sense of humor, but at least that one was kind of funny. But if they did change their name, it would have to be something completely politically correct and non-offensive to as many people as possible. So it would have to be something like the Spirit or the Wind or something like that, because like WNBA sounding names. Although even WNBA has some offensive names. I mean, Liberty, that's pretty offensive to some people these days. So it would be a tall order to try to figure out something that you could change your name to without offending somebody, because there's so many professional offense people out there. I don't even know what you call them. I mean, there are people that make a living off being offended, though. So let's go to Fox News. They were discussing Bob Costas and his comments on Sunday night. This is from, I believe, well, it was just, let's see. This was posted last night, so I'm not sure if it was from yesterday or the day before. And, we'll let the computer catch up. I did preload it. Okay, I'll turn the volume down so you don't have to hear all the clipping sounds while the computer catches up to things. Okay, let's try this again.
Veteran NBC sportscaster Bob Costas once again taking sides in a national controversy. This time over the Washington Redskins team name last night during halftime of the nationally televised Redskins-Cowboys football game. Here's part of that.
Think for a moment about the term Redskins and how it truly differs from all the others. Ask yourself what the equivalent would be if directed toward African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, or members of any other ethnic group. When considered that way, Redskins can't possibly honor a heritage or a noble character trait, nor can it possibly be considered a neutral term. It's an insult, a slur, no matter how benign the present-day intent.
Wow, okay.
Well, now see, again, who is Bob Costas to determine these things? That's my question. Why is Bob Costas all of a sudden the arbiter of what is an insult or a slur? I mean, I would think that Dan Snyder, who owns the team, knows the history of the team a little bit better than Bob Costas, who has a history of shooting off his mouth on things that he doesn't know what he's talking about. The gun control thing last year. And let's be honest. I mean, when you tune into the Sunday Night Football game, do you want to hear this crap? Do you really want to hear this when you tune in to Sunday Night Football? I mean, people watch sports as an escape from their real life. And you don't want to hear this stuff when you're trying to watch a game. I mean, if Bob Costas wants to sound off about this on his own time, that's fine. But then again, he had a clearance to do this. I mean, he couldn't just sit there and talk about this stuff without clearing it with somebody first, or they would have cut the camera or, gone to a commercial or something like that. Somebody somewhere, a producer or executive producer or something like that, said, hey, you can go up and say whatever you want about this. We're behind you. And good for them, but it's just not the place for this kind of stuff. I mean, people just want to watch a football game. They don't want to hear this politically correct crap when they're trying to have a nice Sunday night, drinking a couple beers and watching the Cowboys and the Redskins.
What do you think about this? Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio talk show host, Fox News contributor. Jason Matera, author and a radio host on WABC in New York City. And Jim Gray is a veteran sportscaster himself and a Fox News contributor. Good day to all three of you. Just take, Jason, the last part of Costas' comment there. Is an insult, a slur, no matter how benign the present day intent. Was he right?
Well, I agree the term is offensive. Why would any sports team want to associate itself with Washington, D.C.? I mean, come on, look at all the destructive behavior that comes out of this town. Pick another area of the country.
I knew that was coming. How about this? Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about this a little bit more. News Talk 1270 KIML.
If it's happening in Wyoming, he's talking about it. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. And welcome back to the program. So let's go right back to this audio from Fox News yesterday, talking about Bob Costas and his comments about the Redskins. And that's kind of how this got brought back to the forefront. Although, I mean, the president made some comments last week as well. And I think the push is on. I really do think the push is on. The Redskins are going to have to change their name. I don't know. Maybe we should start taking suggestions. Hey, if you have a suggestion about what you think the Redskins should change their name to, feel free to call 682-1270, 682-1270.
Well, listen, bottom line is those who are offended just happen to be white liberals in the media like Bob Costas. When the team's name changed from the Braves to the Redskins 8 decades ago, there were 4 Native Americans on the team, and the coach was also Native American. Oh, and when the Redskin emblem was created, it was designed by Native Americans at an Indian reservation in South Dakota. Clearly, they weren't offended by it as well. So
now, and that's it. I did bring that up when I was reading the parts of the letter from Dan Snyder. I mean, they consulted some people at Pine Ridge to help design the logo. And of course, the logo's changed a little bit, but it's still the same basic logo with the Indian with the 2 feathers. And, again, and maybe this guy has a point that the people that are being offended by it have no real place. They have no real standing. I mean, if this were a court of law, you have to show some kind of standing to bring a case. Like I can't. Somebody runs into your car. I can't sue them for running into your car. I have no standing. It's the same deal with this. Most of the people that are offended by this have no place being offended by it.
It just is hyperventilating by white liberals, generally in academia and mostly in the media. Like
the owner, Dan Snyder, said that it was never a label, it was and it continues to be a badge of honor. Leslie, are you offended?
Well, I am not a red girl. I am a white girl. I'm not a minority in this country. And I have to say, Jason, if we're going by numbers, then why don't we just have teams with the N-word and any other racial slur as colored people? People of color in this country are the minority currently, at least until the year 2054, supposedly. The bottom line here is if a segment of our population, which many Native Americans have said they are offended by this term, it's something to...
But that's not the case. That is not the case. I mean, every poll that we've seen says the vast majority aren't offended. So what's the number? Is there a magic number that says how many people need to be offended before you can't do what you want to do in your life? If your business name or whatever. If there's a magic number, let's hear the magic number. If it's 100 people, say 100 people are offended, or maybe it's 1% or whatever the number is. Let's hear the magic number so that at least we have some ground rules. Because what happens is once they can force $1 billion NFL franchise to change its name, they're going to start going after other things. And they'll go after the Cleveland Indians, the Braves. They won't go after the Florida State Seminoles because they were smart. They sought permission and pay for, they pay for the name. Maybe that's what the Redskins need to do. They need to change their name to an Indian tribe that's willing to enter into a marketing agreement. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. It could be the Cherokees or something like that.
Look into.
That
and
wasn't
quite
the
frankly,
question,
Bob
Leslie.
Costas
the question was whether
Bob,
you are offended by it. Are you or not?
I'm offended by terms that have historical negative implications. Do I personally feel if somebody called me a Redskin offended? No. But because it offends a segment of our population, no matter how small, yes, I think it should be changed.
Although I will say Leslie Marshall here, I don't know if it's her makeup or what, but she has kind of an orange tone to her, like Speaker Boehner has. Maybe it's that spray on tan stuff. I don't know. I mean, I know Boehner does the spray on tan because he's orange all the time.
Paul, hang on 1 second, guys. Got a lot to get through here. Then I got to get Jim Gray too. Okay. University of Pennsylvania poll: offensive, inoffensive. 90% say it is inoffensive. 9% say it is.
And that's the poll I was referring to earlier. The University of Pennsylvania Annenberg election survey. 768 Native Americans. 90% say it's. And this is asking white liberal people. This is asking Native Americans, or at least people that identify as Native Americans. I wonder if they asked Elizabeth Warren. She claimed to be Native American, but that's neither here nor there. The vast majority, the people that are supposed to be offended are not offended.
Lanny Davis, who helps represent the team on this controversy that was it really caught fire 2 weeks ago when the president was asked about it during an AP interview. Here's Lanny Davis defending the Redskins.
Redskins fans by 95% don't want a name change. Native American tribal leaders in Virginia have spoken out and said, we love the Redskins. The last poll of all Native Americans, the only one ever taken by the Annenberg Institute in 2004, had 9 out of 10 Native Americans not offended by the name.
And that's the poll he's referring to. That was taken some 9 years ago. Jim, the commissioner, Roger Goodell, said, I'm confident he's listening, referring to the team owner. I'm confident he feels strongly about the name, but also wants to do the right thing.
Now, and I'll let Jim Gray finish here in a second, but there's a little bit of coding in that statement. When Goodell says he's listening and he'll do the right thing, that's Goodell saying that the right thing is to change the name. And it just speaks to a larger problem in the NFL right now, that the league is trying to be everything to everyone, and they're turning the league into a politically correct mess. And not to mention the actual changes in play, where they're trying to get rid of kickoffs and trying to do everything they can to avoid injuries. At least they might have their heart in the right place there, but in this case, it's just politically correct pandering to try to make more money. And it's not going to work. They're going to alienate more people than they will gain new fans. And I think it's a dangerous thing to try to do. And we'll kind of put this on hold, and we're still going to talk football though, since Chad came in.
Good morning.
So we'll just put the Redskins stuff on hold. I'm still talking about that.
Oh, really?
But so you actually gained a couple games on me this week.
All right.
With the although everybody got last night's game wrong except for the home team control group, who did anybody see the Chargers winning that game? I mean, none of us did.
No, I didn't.
I mean, they've been looking pretty good. They've been looking pretty good, but so I guess the Chargers and the Colts are now both 4-2.
I think the Chargers may challenge for a wild card berth.
Yeah, they're definitely in that next tier of teams. I mean, we have our top teams, and actually just top two, really.
At this point, it looks like either the Chiefs or Broncos will get a wild card berth.
Yeah.
And then, the Chargers, the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to
Ravens, maybe.
Well, the Ravens might be. It'll be tough. I mean, somebody from that division is going to win a division berth.
Yeah, so the Ravens could still win the division, but if they don't, then I guess if the Bengals continue to do well, I guess the Browns could fight for it too, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's that division is just a big mess of mediocrity, though.
Yeah,
if you think about it. I mean, and we'll do our top five. I think after those top five teams, though, there are another tier of teams that are just right on the cusp, and the Ravens are in there. And
so who's winning in terms of the picks?
You're winning. You're 67-25 for the season so far.
Huh.
And
Who's second?
I'm 5 games behind, 62-30. Vic is 54-38. He didn't have quite as good a week as he did last week. Paul is 50-42. So Paul is 17 games out of first place. And the home advantage is kind of slipping. They fell to 56-36.
So Paul is losing to the home team,
and Vic as well.
And Vic is Vic losing to the home group too?
It's getting close though. They're within 2 games. The home teams went 8-7 this week.
So Vic is trying to catch up to the automatic pick.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I'm only 6 games ahead of the automatic pick, and you're 11 games ahead of it. Yeah. But I think by the end of the season, we'll see that's going to be right around even, or maybe just a little bit above even. I mean, there's so many games throughout the season that, statistically, I mean, the home team advantage isn't that big. I mean, if you look at by points, it's only 3 points.
Right.
So by the end of the season, that should even out. I bet it's right around 500 by the end of the season. And I didn't look it up beforehand. Yeah. Before I decided to use the home teams as the control group, I didn't even look up the statistical home advantage record. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this week was, I mean, you did pretty well this week, but everybody else just kind of around mediocrity.
Yeah, which seems weird. I didn't think there were that many upsets this week.
Well, I think people were expecting more upsets than we got. I mean, the Steelers beating the Jets, I think that one was one that kind of tricked a few people.
I know I didn't pick that one.
Carolina and Minnesota.
I didn't pick that one either.
That was like the big upset of the week. And besides that,
Minnesota.
Besides that, it was a pretty average week.
Huh.
So, and in the next hour, we'll kind of preview what we have coming up for Tuesday morning quarterbacks.
Okay.
But what do we have coming up in the sports for this hour?
We have some cross-country news and also the Monday Night Football game last night.
Sounds good. We'll see you at 8:30.
Okay.
News Talk 1270 KIML.
Not insulting guests since 2013. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. And welcome back to the program. The VFW Ladies Auxiliary Post 7756 is having a football frenzy fundraiser. Your last chance to purchase a raffle ticket will be from 4 to 6 p.m. at Uncle Freddy's Mingles on Friday, October 18th. That's this Friday. Winners will be drawn at 6 p.m. Tickets are $1 each or get 6 for $5. And you don't have to be present to win. All proceeds benefit the Veterans and Scholarships Program. For more information, call Jan Miller at 660-4298. So let's go right back to this audio. We're discussing the Redskins and Bob Costas's comments in particular. And, I've already kind of weighed in on with my view on this. I think they are eventually going to have to change the name. I don't know if it'll be this time, because these things seem to go in rounds. Every couple of years it comes up again. Although I do find it interesting that this big round of attacks on the Redskins came right around Columbus Day, celebrating the guy that actually killed Indians. But, what can you do? What can you do? Again, it's just all political correctness run amok. And I don't know how to stop it, really, to tell you the truth.
Like a lawyer, I bet. What happens here? Where does this go?
Well, I think they are listening.
And now this is Jim Gray, former, I think he was CBS Sports, I do believe.
And that's what caused Dan Snyder to write the letter, and that's what caused the commissioner as recently as yesterday to comment on it again before the Cowboys and the Redskins played. You know, this issue isn't going away. It's been ongoing since 1992. I was part of the broadcast team of the 1992 Super Bowl that was on CBS, and there were people outside the Metrodome picketing that day when the Redskins beat the Buffalo Bills. Jack Kent Cooke, who was the owner at the time, just kind of stonewalled it, didn't address it. Paul Tagliabue basically issued a very benign and unemotional statement at that Super Bowl. So it keeps coming back, and now last night hitting a crescendo again with Bob Costas.
Now, and the thing to remember about this is Jack Kent Cooke, the former owner of the Redskins, and what Jim Gray is saying is true. I mean, he didn't really address this. He kind of just kind of shuffled it off. I think what Snyder did was a good, and you can read the whole, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a very long letter, but he goes into his history with the team as well as examples of how they've worked with the Native American community to make sure that they're not being offensive. And I think it was a pretty powerful argument. But of course, the people that make their living off being offended aren't going to go away.
There's going to be a big issue decided at the end of the week, the trademark issue, which is being decided in federal court. The lawsuit that has taken place is going to be a big setback if the Redskins lose, and it's going to put further pressure on them.
Costas makes the point that Braves and Chiefs and Warriors, that's okay, but Redskins is not. Suggesting that Braves and Chiefs and Warriors, they're meant to honor Native Americans. And he made the point that colleges have changed. Stanford and Dartmouth, Miami of Ohio, the St. John's Redmen went to, what are they now? The Red Storm.
Red Storm.
Red Storm.
Why do they never mention Syracuse? I never understood that one. Syracuse, the Orange Men, is an Indian reference.
Jim?
Yes, well, they have changed. A lot of them have changed, Bill. But when you say Braves, that does seem to me to instill pride. When you say Warriors, that instills pride. Redskins is offensive to people. There are those who are offended by it. The polls show that a lot of Native Americans are not, but if there is, as the president has said, some people who are offended by it, then it needs to be examined and looked at.
Well, see, now, I understand the argument, but here's the problem. There's always going to be a segment of the population that's offended by something, no matter what you do. And as somebody that works in the media, and I mean, a good example was yesterday. So people get offended, no matter what you do. Someone's going to be offended. You can't go through life living your life the way other people tell you how to do it. And if you're a billionaire NFL team owner, you can't let a minority of people tell you what to do. I think it's a dangerous road to go down. Let's go back to the phones. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
I've had a complete change of heart, Don.
Oh, yeah? What's up?
Let's take the president's words. If you're slightly offended at something, we should look at it, maybe get rid of it. Barack Obama offends me.
Okay.
So let's get rid of it.
Well, I will say there are probably a lot more people that are offended by the president than are offended by the Redskins name. Hey, maybe you have a point.
I'd say let's get rid of the president, and then maybe he'll quit making idiotic remarks, the stuff that he should not even open his mouth on.
Well, it certainly has a history of that. I mean, the Cambridge police incident where he said the cop acted stupidly and he had to bring him down and have a beer with him for a photo op.
I wouldn't have done it if I was that cop.
No, I wouldn't have either. I mean, it was just a silly photo op.
That's all it was. He's making nice.
Yeah.
He's an idiot that opens his mouth every once in a while, and everybody in the White House has to scramble around and figure out how to stop the floodgates. Kind of like Joe Biden, except Joe Biden's not as closely guarded.
Well, have you seen Biden lately? He's missing in action.
Well, because they don't want him saying nothing about anything.
Well, and everybody thought Biden was going to be the guy that sticks his foot in his mouth, but the president's done a much worse job at that.
They have to remember they got 2 little kids to look after.
Yeah.
You gotta watch them both at the same time.
Well, I can't even imagine whoever controls the image for the president and vice president. I will say they'd certainly earn their money. I think we lost you. We got another call, though. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Well, good morning, Don. I think they should change the name, if they want to be politically correct, to the Washington Thinskins.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, it would be totally appropriate.
Yes, it would be, because this is so silly. At first, when my grandson was here, I thought the Washington Red Appleskins. But then, the apples would come and protest, and the yellow and green apples would really... I'm sorry, this is so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It really is. I mean, this is what the world's come to. I mean, some people have nothing better to do than to protest a football team.
I know it. Isn't that just sad?
Yeah. People, I mean, if people would just lighten up a little bit, I think they'd have a little bit more fun with life.
Oh, so do I, because I had fun when he kept on saying that, and I said, and then when Thinskins hit me, I was just like, isn't that what they're doing?
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Thanks, bye, Don.
Hey, thanks for the call. Certainly are a lot of thin skins going around these days. News Talk 1270 KIML.
Better than your first kiss, without all the awkward slobber. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. So let's wrap up this Redskins talk. I do want to move on to something else in the next hour. And just a reminder, at around 8:35 or so, we'll have Maureen Moore from the Peabody Energy Leaders in Education program calling in. And tomorrow, a big day, we have, tomorrow, Liz Cheney will be calling in after the 9 o'clock news. And we'll have some folks from the Yes House as well. So a big day tomorrow as well. Let's go right back to Fox News, just talking about the Redskins name change fracas.
You would not name that team the Redskins today. Times change and we with time. Okay. That would not be the chosen name if they were picking a team right now. If it had been the Washington Nationals baseball team, they would have not chosen the Redskins. That's just not how we operate in this day and age.
Now, that's a fair enough assessment, but are the way that we do things right now in this day and age, are they the right way to do things? That's the question. This team has 82 years of history as the Redskins. So do you just throw all that history out just because a small minority of people are offended?
Why do you think Costas chose that broadcast on Sunday night to do this?
Because he looks for attention.
It's such an issue. People like Peter King of Sports Illustrated, Mike Wise in the Washington Post, Christine Brennan in the USA Today said that they will not use the name and refer to it anymore, that they will call it the Washington Football Organization. So this thing is rising once again to a crescendo, and there's this court case as well. So I think that's why it came up last night.
Quickly, Jason, I know you're shaking your head no. I'll give you the last answer here. Where do you think this goes? What happens?
Well, those who are opposed to the Washington Redskins names are clearly on the fringe, as the polls you indicated demonstrate. You have 90% of Native Americans who say that they are not offended. And by the way, if the intent was to cast aspersions on Native Americans, it's an odd way to do so by naming a billion-dollar football franchise beloved by millions of people in the nation's capital. Strange way to cast aspersions on Native Americans.
And there you go. That's the end of the clip. We have about a minute. Let's go to the phones. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Linda.
Oh, hi, Linda. How's it going?
It's going great. I just wanted to throw this out there. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the 60s, when everybody's cause was a major event. It used to be before the 60s that if you had an issue, you just sucked it up and you went along with the norm, which was maybe a higher standard of doing things and values, and now we have everybody in this country who has a cause, fed by the mass media, instant messaging, Twitter, all of these ways to get this information out. And then those minor things become major things, and that's what this administration really likes.
Oh, yeah. And I think you nailed it. I think this whole professional outrage thing did start in the 60s. Once they started seeing that they were able to change things on truly important issues like civil rights, they figured, well, we can change it on that. We can change anything we want. And they started looking for smaller things like changing football team names.
Well, I mean, we didn't used to have the food police. We didn't. I mean,
yeah.
I read a deal on Facebook the other day that, you know, the moms from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, it's a miracle their children even grew up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the things that happened, kids riding in the car without a car seat, strapped in like some kind of prisoner, eating habits, all of these things. I'm not saying these are not good things, but when generations of kids have grown up without all of these changes brought on by individuals who think their idea is more important than your idea, invading your privacy and your right to do whatever you feel is right for your family. Now they're into the sport. They don't want them to shake hands after the game. They don't want them to pray. They don't want them to do all of these things, and now they want to change a name that's been there for 82 years. The Native Americans aren't offended, so what is up with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just people that have nothing better to do than be offended. That really is, that's all there is to it, I guess.
You know, I guess we've failed in bringing up kids to have good self-esteem, because when I was teaching, that was the big issue. Your kids have to have good self-esteem. Let's raise the failing level up from, let's lower it down from 70 to 59, so we have fewer kids that are failing. I mean, you know, all of these things that we change, you don't really understand the ripple effect of what that change does. And I'm appalled every day at the new things that come out, and who's going to get their 15 minutes of fame and who's not, and why is this important to me? You know what? I think if they've had this name for that long, the fans love them. The Native Americans don't give a rip. What's the big deal?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I couldn't have put it better myself.
So anyway, that was my deal for today. I've run out of ideas, but I really am sad that we live in a country that the squeaky wheel gets the grease and the rest of us can just jump in the lake. So that's my deal. So have a great day, Don.
Hey, thanks, Linda. And I think we might have one more call. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Linda had a bunch of awesome, valid points, and it goes all into my theory of the, you see the Spock theory on everything here. What's good for the many, you know, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Well, 90% of American Indians like the Redskins, 10% don't. Tough. It's Redskins.
Well, we've certainly...
Cool.
Yeah, we've certainly flipped around that whole thing. The needs of the few all of a sudden are everything, and the needs of the many, who cares, right?
They trample on everybody else's rights as long as you have a couple, like this whole gay right movement thing. You got these little squeaky wheels making all kinds of noise, and most people really don't give a darn about it. And but you're making this legislation that they're trying to enforce by law on, say, they want to get married, and the guy who has to marry him is a Catholic, and he doesn't believe in that. Oh, tough. Now he can be sued because the minority has their voice.
Yeah, and I hate to cut you off, but we're completely out of time for the hour. I mean, it's all part of the same deal. It really is. And we'll see you on the other side of the break. News Talk 1270 KIML.
If it's happening in Wyoming, he's talking about it. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. And welcome back to the third hour of the program. You know, I was fully intending on moving on to some of the shutdown talk, but a couple of the calls that we got right at the end of the hour, Linda and John in particular, mentioning some of the things that are going on in our schools, Linda especially. It actually brought up a story that I did have scheduled for at some point today. I kind of had it on my list of stuff that I wanted to talk about. But I think we're going to do this one right now because it's another example of this political correctness, of zero tolerance, punishing people for doing the right thing. You have to excuse me. I a little bit of a dry throat there. I had to take a drink of water. So Erin Cox, a high school honors student and captain of the volleyball team, she got a phone call from a friend in trouble and didn't hesitate. Her friend was drunk at a party earlier this month and asked Cox to drive her home. She agreed and went to pick up her friend. I felt it was the right thing to do, she said. And this is Massachusetts. Saving her from getting in the car when she was intoxicated and hurting herself, or getting in the car with someone else who was drinking, I'd give her a ride home. So, I mean, this Erin Cox, she's an honor student, captain of the volleyball team. She decides to be the designated driver for her friend who was, underage drinking, not doing the right thing. But she was going to try to help her out because, you don't want anybody getting hurt. But moments after Erin Cox arrived at the party, police also arrived. They busted several kids for underage possession of alcohol and warned others, including Cox, that they would be summoned to court for drinking, even though Cox wasn't drinking and was in possession of alcohol. And despite a police officer vouching for her sobriety in writing, that wasn't good enough for the North Andover High School. Officials there told Cox that she violated the district's zero tolerance policy against alcohol and drug use, so the 17-year-old senior was demoted from her captain's position on the volleyball team and suspended for 5 games. If a kid asks for help from a friend, you don't want that kid to say, "I'm sorry, I can't help you. I might end up in trouble at school." Attorney Wendy Murphy, who is trying to help the Cox family get the school's decision reversed. The Cox family filed a lawsuit in district court on Friday, and the attorney said that the school's lawyer said out loud to a judge, and it was a lie, that Erin was arrested. So the school's attorney lied in front of a judge and said that this girl was arrested. She wasn't arrested. She wasn't drinking, and there was a police officer who vouched for her in writing. Neither the school district nor its attorney could be reached for comment. No surprise there. And meanwhile, the girl's teammates have launched a petition to support her, and her family is trying to hold it together. And I do have some audio from Shepard Smith last night about this as well. But this is just another example of what happens when you have political correctness running amok. There's zero tolerance. I mean, you've seen stories of kids getting arrested and thrown in mental institutions for drawing a picture of a gun on a paper or taking their fingers and going bang, 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 like the little thumb and forefinger. This is what happens when you let a small minority of people that are constantly being offended or constantly, it's the nanny state. It really is.
Now to the high school student who is in trouble just for showing up at a party where police arrested about a dozen students for underage drinking. The thing is, this student didn't have a drop. She's a 17-year-old honor student who says she was there because a friend called her, "Come pick me up because I've had too much to drink." A cop at the scene vouched for the teen, said that's exactly what happened. She didn't drink. She was there to pick up someone who did drink. And school officials claim she still violated their zero tolerance policy just by being there. They took away her captain's position on the volleyball team, suspended her for 5 volleyball games.
See, and this is what's going on these days. This is exactly what's going on. And you try to do the right thing, you get punished for it. So why even try anymore?
And Jonathan Hunt has the rest of the story. It seems clear to me why you would do this. If a friend is drunk and you hadn't had a drop, maybe go save a life one time. Why don't you?
It's hard to see what Erin Cox did wrong here, Shep. She's 17 years old. A couple of weeks ago, she finished her shift as a waitress at the Andover Inn. She got a text from her friend saying, "I'm at this party. I've had a little too much to drink. Can you come and drive me home?"
And I want to say I'm not going to say that her friend did the right thing by going to a party and drinking when she was 17, but she absolutely did the right thing by asking for a ride. I mean, it kind of mitigates this whole bad decision. You don't see that often. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, it's obviously not good decision making to go drink at a party when you're 17, but at least she asked for a ride, and this girl tried to do the right thing and gets punished for it. This is the world we live in today, folks.
Erin told the Boston Herald, quote, "I felt like going to get her was the right thing to do, saving her from getting in the car when she was intoxicated and hurt herself, or getting in the car with someone else who was drinking. I'd give her a ride home." So that's exactly what she did. But as she arrived to pick up that friend, the cops also arrived. So basically, Shep, she got caught up in this bust, and the school said, "You were there at a party where drinks were being served. That's it."
That's stupid. And if I were the family, I'd be taking legal action.
And that's exactly what the family is doing, although they're not getting that far with it as yet. We spoke a short time ago, I got a statement a short time ago from Wendy Murphy, who's a lawyer for the Cox family. That statement says, in part, "We should be glad that young people like Erin Cox are willing to help friends who might not otherwise get home safely. By punishing Erin Cox."
And again, I mean, why do the right thing anymore? And this entire society is now built on doing the wrong thing. And we've seen it over and over again. It's not really related, but it's another sign of doing the wrong thing. The story I shared with you yesterday about the Walmart getting the shelves cleared because people thought they could get free groceries. It's the same thing. You're rewarding people who do the wrong thing. When a teenage girl, and I have a 17-year-old daughter, so if this happened to my daughter and she got in trouble for helping a friend out, doing the right thing, I would be livid.
The North Andover School District sends a contrary and very dangerous message that young people are better off letting their friends drive drunk. Now, the school officials have not got back to us. We did speak very briefly to a lawyer who is acting for them. He said the school takes drinking very seriously, or under it.
Well, this girl takes drinking seriously. She tried to help her friend so she wouldn't drive drunk. We're so far down the hole that I don't think we can dig ourselves out at this point. This is what our society is these days.
Age drinking.
Well, it seems like she does too.
It would seem that way. It just doesn't seem to make any sense to anybody who looks at the facts of this.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a world where the sense and the truth and doing the right thing mean nothing anymore. When we come back, we're going to have another delightful little story for you about a New Hampshire school that's banned playing tag. And I mentioned this last week, but we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth after the break. News Talk 1270 KIML.
Broadcasting from two tall towers in the middle of a big field. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. And welcome back to the program. So I want to get right back into this. I have some audio from Red Eye from a couple nights ago about this New Hampshire school that banned tag. And, it kind of ties in with this whole nanny state, politically correct theme that we've been going with today. And, I mentioned it in passing, I think maybe last Friday, but more has come out about it. So let's just listen to this audio, and I'm sure I'll have a few things to say in the meanwhile.
New Hampshire Elementary School, is there any other kind, is reminding parents and students that playing tag violates the school's longtime no contact rule for recess games. Side note, I am so tired of places telling me they have a no contact rule. Anyway, school's principal tells a local newspaper that several concussions, a broken wrist, and other injuries led her to post a letter. Why do you laugh at such
How the hell do you get a concussion from playing tag? Really?
weird things? Post a letter on the school's website informing parents of the school's safety policies. She adds that she wants children to be active, but it must be done in a safe way. Meaning she wants to put children in safes.
No.
What? Yes.
Now, if you remember, I told you last week about the Postal Service had to recall some stamps that were promoting Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, where the little stick figures on the stamps weren't wearing safety equipment, including a kid doing a headstand, which isn't particularly good exercise anyway, but the kid doing a headstand wasn't wearing a helmet. So they recalled the stamp with the picture of the helmetless stick figure. It's mind-blowing how dumb these people are. I mean, where do you even get a helmet for headstands? I guess you could use a hockey helmet or a motorcycle helmet.
That's the only conclusion I can come to. And it's disgusting.
Condemn.
Nick, isn't taking away tag a violation of student rights?
I don't I was laughing because, broken wrist, this and that. Is this like Thunderdome Elementary? I mean, what's going on there?
That would be awesome. Do you think something else is going on?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch of roller skates that people happen to fall on or something. The worst part of this, though, now, instead of playing tag, they have to come inside and collect stamps.
They'll
learn,
and
it's a good investment.
Well, they can't collect stamps without the proper safety equipment on the stamps.
We'll be right back. I'm just going to let the camera linger on that disgusting human being. Andy, let me guess. I bet this inspired your book. Tell us about it.
This is another example of what I like to call the Obamification of American wussies. Chad, I don't know if we have it. Oh, we do have it. Good. You can read more about this in my new book, The Obamification of American Wussies.
Do you have...
I think you're getting down to business.
Well, no, I have to say, I actually read the story wrong. I thought they were taking away my Swedish masseuse Tag.
Oh.
And let's go to the phones. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hey, Don, I just have one quick question for you. I'd like to know how the kids of yesteryear managed to grow up with all the stipulations they have these days.
Well, how did kids ever make it to adulthood without having to wear helmets when they did headstands?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, everything just is blown out of proportion, and how are kids supposed to have fun and be creative?
Well, I mean, that's the point. I don't think they're allowed to have fun anymore. I mean, I think the entire thing is just meant to stifle any sort of, especially physical fun. I mean, they don't want kids to have fun anymore. Fun is sitting in front of a TV and getting fat, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that and the video games. That's kind of their extent, I think.
Yeah, well, but see, you can't have violent video games either. So it's got to be all really safe video games that don't portray anything that's anything controversial. And you definitely can't have the kid going outside in the real world and riding a bike or playing tag. They'll get concussions from playing tag.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But that was my only comment. I just having kids of yesteryear, how did they grow up?
Yeah, I'm wondering how I made it to the age of 40 having never worn a helmet when I did headstands. Although I couldn't do a headstand for more than about 2 seconds anyway. I'm not very physically coordinated.
I got $5 put in a hole in my pocket. If you can do a headstand right here on this floor for the next 5 seconds, that $5 is yours.
You know what? Okay, I need $5. I'll do it. I'll do it right now. You'll have to describe what's going now. A headstand where my head gets to touch the ground, or a handstand where I have to push up.
A headstand. You have to maintain a headstand without touching the wall for 5 seconds.
Okay. Deal. It's on.
You can do. I actually don't have $5 in my pocket.
Oh, I'll do it anyway.
All right, I'll give you $5.
Nah, well, yeah. Okay. I'll
give you
do
a promissory note.
Okay. And then we'll talk about what we're going to do in the next hour.
All right, here goes Don Carpenter. Hopefully the paramedics are standing by in case he
5 seconds.
throws out his spinal cord. I said you couldn't lean against the wall there, dude.
Oh, I can't lean against the wall.
No, you got to do a headstand where you are. Whoa, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he is on his head, and now he's fallen down, and he's out. Hey, great job. I owe Don Carpenter $5. I didn't think there was any way you could do a headstand for 5 seconds. You could have gone for much longer.
I almost broke my neck.
Besides that, you pulled off the headstand part.
The headstand was fine. Getting out of the headstand is not.
You got into the headstand and you stayed on your head. When was the last time you did a headstand?
Oh, I must have been about 10 years old.
Man.
I'm out of breath.
Muscle memory.
I guess so.
Recall.
All I know is all the weight is right around the middle, so it was trying to pull me down the whole time.
You did phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I didn't know I was going to be the stunt boy in my own show, but somebody's got to.
So you nearly broke your neck. Does that mean you should have had a helmet?
Well, I think the helmet probably would have added weight, and it would have actually broken my neck.
Okay.
So there you go. You're safer doing a headstand without a helmet. That's the lesson. So what do we have going on during the Tuesday morning quarterback segment?
We will hear from Gillette Wild coach Tom Winkler, also from Gillette High School tennis coach Mark Meisler. His girls team won the state championship. He also had a boys doubles combination that won the state championship. And we'll hear from Wright cross country coach Sarah Glasser.
Sounds good. And so we'll see you again at 9 o'clock, and we'll have Maureen Moore from the Peabody Energy Leaders in Education program right after the break.
Congrats on that headstand, by the way.
Yeah, well, I didn't hurt myself too bad, so I'm all right. News Talk 1270 KIML.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270 KIML.